Hello, welcome to video number 13. In this video, we will learn how to create a new database. We will import our supplier list data and customer list data table into our database from Excel workbooks, and we will add data types to each of these two tables. We'll also create a product table and add data types and field properties to it. We will use the data type lookup wizard to connect the products table with the other two tables with one-to-many relationship, and also use the lookup wizard to create a wholesale and retail field in this table. We'll also use relationship window to add referential integrity to one-to-many relationship between these three tables. We will create a form for all the three tables, and we will add data to the products table using the product form. So before I open a new database, I have these PDF notes here of how to create a new database. These notes are provided to you in our class website, and also the Excel workbooks that we will use for the supplier list and customer list data tables. These are also provided to you. Please download the Excel workbooks because you will need to import this into our database. You will also need to download these PDF notes, as I have included the step-by-step of how to create our stuffed animal database, and this is 31 pages. So I'm using my keyboard shortcut to go to the end of these notes, so Control End. And on this last page here, I have a picture of how our database will look like by the end of this video. We will have 3 tables, and we also have 3 forms. Here is also the data that we shall add to our products table using the products form. So I will now close this, and we will begin creating our new database. Alt F4 to close this. So for our new database, we are creating a database for a store that sells teddy bears. And by the end of our next 3 videos, you will have the skills and knowledge to create a database. So for example, if you have your own business, you can use this knowledge that you will learn here in addition to the Excel knowledge that you gained in this class to create your own database. So to open a new database, on your Windows taskbar, you can click on the Start button to open the Start menu, and you can scroll down on the list of all apps. I have my all apps here. From here, you can see Access is at the top, and you can click to open this. And if you would like to pin this to your taskbar, you can right click on that and then click on More and then click Pin to Taskbar. I already have mine pinned to my taskbar, so I will escape that. And now right here on my Windows taskbar, you can see my Access icon is pinned right here. So I will click on that to open Access. Here you can see the templates, which we will not use since we are creating our own database. Down here, you see the recent database that I have previously opened. Yours will look different from mine. So to create a new database, click on the blank database right there. And you can see this opens very differently from Excel or Word, because with Access, we have to save our file first before we can create a new database. So we can either name our file from the file name box right here and then click browse to save this file to the location of our choice, or we can start by browsing for a location where we would like to save this database and then name our file. But in our case here, we will start by naming our file, and we will name this stuffed animal database. And then we will click here to browse and navigate to the location where we would like to save this file. So I'm scrolling down to my USB, and right here I will navigate to our class folder. And I can see our Access folder right here. So I will click on that, and I can see I have my file name here because we named that here in the blank database window right here. So I also need to make sure that the Save As type is Microsoft Access 2007-2016 database, and then I will click OK. And when I click OK, I will return to the blank database screen. So I will click on that, and right here you can see I'm back to my blank database screen right here. I have the name here, and I have the location path that we saved our file. So the next thing, I will click create, and you can see right here we have created our stuffed animal database. You can see the name right here and the location where we have saved this file. And by default, Access opens a new database with an empty table, and it's named table 1 right here. So we will change this name from table 1 to products. This here is the navigation pane, and you can see right here also, once Access opens the new database, it opens also the table, and you can see the table is blank. So the next thing that we will need to do is to change table 1 and rename that as products. So I will save this, and I will use the keyboard shortcut Control S. I will name this products, and then I will click OK. And you can see now from my navigation pane right here, I have renamed that table as products. And also you can see here on my tab that has renamed as products too. So I will close this, and I'm making sure that I'm closing here from the tab. Please make sure you do not close from up here, because when you close from here, you'll be closing the entire database. So you don't want to do that, since we are still creating more tables here in our database. So make sure you click the close X button right there. And now the next thing that we will need to do, we'll need to import our Excel workbook into our database right here. So to do that, I will click on External Data tab right here on my ribbon. And then on the Import and Link group, I will click on New Data Source, and I'm importing our data from File, and it is from Excel. So I'm clicking Excel, and right here you see that opens for us the Get External Data Excel Spreadsheet dialog box. And from here we will specify the source of the definition of the objects. So as you can remember from the beginning of this video, I told you to download the Excel workbooks, the customer list table and the supplier list table into your folder. So because you saved that, now we will browse to the location where you saved those files, and then we will import the Excel files into our database. So I'm clicking on the browse button right here, and I'm browsing to the location where I saved our Excel workbooks. I'm navigating to our class folder, and I'm clicking access, and I'm first getting supplier store list table. So I will double click that, and you can see right here we have the file name right there. So the next thing that I will need to make sure is that the imports the source data into a new table in the current database is selected. So make sure you select that and then click OK. In the next window, we need to make sure that the first row, which contains our headings, as you can see right here, is selected. So click right here, first row contains column headings. And then you can see right here that now has been selected as column headings. So click next. And in this next window, in the field options on the indexed box, we need to make sure that we select yes and no duplicates, and then click next. From here, by default, Access has Let Access Add Primary Key selected. So we need to make sure that we are selecting our own primary key. So select Choose My Own Primary Key. And then once you do that, you see we have the supplier store code field selected, which is our primary key right there. So click next. And then right here, if you need to rename your table, this is where you will rename your table. But for our case here, we are keeping the same name for our table, supplier list. So click finish, and we do not need to save this step. So I will click close. And here on our navigation pane, now we can see we have the supplier list table. We will repeat the same steps and import customer list table from Excel. So I'm still up here on my ribbon on the external data tab. Click on the new data source button right there. And then from file, from Excel, and then I will browse to get the customer list table, and it's right here. So I'll double click on that, and then I'm making sure that the import the source data into a new table in the current database is selected. Click OK. I'm making sure the first row contains column headings is selected, and again I see my column headings has been selected there. So click next. And over here on the field options, I'm making sure that the indexed is yes and no duplicates. And then click next. And then right here, I do not want access to add the primary key. As you can see, it's adding the primary key for us here as auto number. I don't need that. So we will choose our own primary key. So select choose my own primary key. And you can see the customer code is now selected as the primary key. Click next. And then now this is on the last window right here where we have to rename our table, but we are keeping the same name, customer list. So we'll click finish and we are not saving the import steps. I will click close. And now right here on our navigation pane, we can see we have these two tables that we imported from our Excel workbook. And we have the products table. This is the automatic table which we named products. So now we will open the supplier list table. I will double click to open that. And you can see right here, it has opened in the datasheet view, which is by default. Once we open our table or queries from here, over here, it will open in datasheet view by default. You can see the name of the table right here. And here is the data that we have imported from our Excel workbook. And you can see each field here has a field name up here. This here is the primary key that we set while we were importing this from our Excel workbook. And I will change the view here to the design view. So I'm coming up here to my home tab on my ribbon, and then on the views group, click on the view. And right now we're in datasheet view, so we will change to design view. Here now you can see that all the fields are listed vertically. And this key symbol here indicates that this table has a primary key. And here also on my ribbon, on the tools group, you can see that the primary key is highlighted right here. The primary key uniquely identifies each record in a table and also ensures that Access does not allow duplicate values in the primary key field. So here are the field names. These are the data types here, and these are the description, which is optional. So the description describes what data or what type of information that you have put in that field. We also have down here the field properties, and we will change the data types and field properties to ensure only what we specify goes into the table. This will also prevent bad data from being entered into our table. And so, as the saying goes, garbage in, garbage out, and thus the quality of our output will be determined by what we enter in our tables. And so by adding the data types and field properties, it ensures that bad raw data does not enter the table. And so for the queries and the reports, it will only contain useful information which will help in making good decisions. So before we change our data type and field properties, let's first take a look at our PDF notes. So if you would turn to page 8 of our PDF notes, here we have the different data types listed on our notes, and we have the usage of each, and we also have the size of each data type. For our field properties, we will use the input mask, and here are the codes for the input mask, and these are like the number formatting in Excel. I have listed the character and the description for each character right here. For 0, it means it is only digit and the entry is required. For 9, it can be a digit or space and entry is not required. For L, it means that is letter only, A to Z, entry is required. For a question mark, it is letter only, A to Z, the entry is optional. For uppercase A, it is letter or digit, entry is required. For lowercase a, letter or digit, entry is optional. We will also use the greater than symbol, and you can see here the less than symbol. It causes all characters to be converted to lowercase. The greater than symbol, it causes all characters to be converted to uppercase. And you can also see all the characters there and the description for each. If I scroll down on page 9, you can see I have also listed here the number field size properties. So I have the field size and the description of each. So I will go back to our database, and here on our data type, if I click on the data type there, I can see that arrow there, And if you click on that arrow, we see the list of data types here. For the short text, it allows field values containing letters, digits, spaces, and special characters. It is 0 to 255 characters, and by default right here you can see it is 255 characters. We also have the long text, which allows field values containing letters, digits, spaces, and special characters, and use of long comments and explanations too. We also have the number, and the number allows positive and negative numbers as field values, and a number can contain 1 to 15 digits. And we also have the large numbers. We also have the date and time, and the date and time allows field values containing valid dates and times only. We also have currency data type. It allows field values similar to those for the number data type, but this is used for storing monetary values. We also have the auto number. It consists of integer values created automatically by Access each time you create a new record, and you can also use the auto number as a primary key. We have the yes and no data type, and this limits field values to yes and no. It can be on and off, or it can be true and false. We also have the all object, which you can use this for pictures and graphs. And we also have hyperlink data type, where you can include a link address. We have attachment, where you can attach files such as pictures and documents. We have a calculated data type, but we will not use this since we will use our queries to do our calculations. And we also have a lookup wizard data type, and we will use this when we are looking up a value from another column in a different table. So for the supplier store code, we will leave the data type as a short text. I will tab to include the description, and the description for each field name in our supplier list table. This is provided to you, and it is on page 10 to 13 of our PDF notes. So if you would turn to page 10 of our PDF notes, you can follow along as I add the data type, the description, and the field properties. So the description here is primary key, 2 capital letters. And I will also add field properties for this. So F6 to jump to the field properties. I will change the field size here to 2, and tab and delete the format, and then tab to add the input mask, and I'll put the greater than symbol because I only want to allow uppercase letters, and then LL for 2 letters. And I will add the validation rule. So tab, tab, tab. The validation rule will be LL, and then the validation text will be must enter 2 capital letters. You can also see right here the index is yes and no duplicates. And if you can remember, we set this when we were importing from our Excel workbook. We set this to yes and no duplicates. So this ensures that we will not have any duplicates for our supplier store code, which is our primary key. So for the supplier store name, I will keep that as short text. And tab for the description. This is the name of the store. F6 to jump to the field properties, and I will change the field size to 35. Tab and delete the format. For the address, that is short text, and this is the address where the store is located. For the field properties, I will change the size to 50 and tab and delete the format. For the city, that is short text, the city where the store is located. F6 to jump to the field properties, and this will be 15 characters. Tab and delete the format. And then for the state, this will be short text too, the state where the store is located. F6 to jump to the field properties, and we will change this to 2, and then tab and delete the format, and then we will have an input mask for this one as LL, so greater than symbol to ensure we only have uppercase letters, and then LL. For the zip, we will not use a number for this one because we will not do any calculations on this, so we will change this to short text. So if I type an S, I can see that I get a short text there, so I will tab and I will type the description as the supplier zip code. F6 to jump to the field properties. I will change the field size to 10. And then for the input mask, I can either type in my input mask there, or I can come up here to the right size and click on the 3 dots that are right there. And then I get this message here that I must save the table, and I will click yes to save now. We also get another message here that some data may be lost, and this is because we changed and added a bunch of rules to our data type and field properties. So these generic messages, or these warning messages, they are letting us know that anything that doesn't fit to the data type and field properties that we have set will be wiped out. So if you choose no, Access will keep the previous data type. So we will need to click yes to all these warning messages and keep the new settings and continue. So click yes to that, click yes to that. And now we have the Input Mask Wizard dialog box open. So we are selecting the zip code, and then we will click next. And right here we can see our input mask. So in our input mask box here, we will change the 9 and we'll change that to hashtag. So 1, 2, 3, 4 hashtags. Entry is optional and a digit, space, plus or minus sign can be entered. And then we'll click next. And then how do you want to store the data? We will choose the first option with the symbols in the mask like this. And then click next. And then we have finished setting up our input mask wizard. So we'll click finish. And now we can see our input mask right here. So the next field name is the telephone. Tab and type S to change that to short text. And the description for this is the supplier's phone number. F6 to jump to the field properties. In the phone number, the field size will be 10. And then tab for the input mask. I will use these dots right here on your right side. So click on that. And then we must save the table. So click yes. And then here we will select the phone number and then click next. In the input mask, we will not change anything in our input mask here. So click next. And then we'll choose the first option here with the symbols in the mask like this. And then click next. And now we have finished creating our input mask. So we'll click finish and we can see our input mask right there for the telephone. So now I will save this and I'll use the keyboard shortcut Ctrl S to save that. And now we have made the changes that we needed to make for the data type in our supplier list table. So we will use the X button right here and we will close our supplier list table. The next thing that we will need to do is to add data types to our customer list table. So double click to open that. And here is the data that we imported from our Excel workbook. So I will change this to design view. And also you can see we also have our primary key here as the customer code. And we set this while we were importing this from our Excel workbook. So we will add the data types, description, and field properties just like we did in our supplier list table. The data types for each of these fields are provided to you in our PDF notes on page 13 to 16. So we will start with the customer code tab and we will keep that as a short text. Tab to type the description, and this is primary key, 2 capital letters and 3 numbers. F6 to jump to the field properties, and the field size will be 5 characters. Tab and delete the format. Tab and add the input mask, and this will be greater than symbol, and then LL for 2 letters, and then 3 zeros for 3 numbers, and then tab for the validation rule, and this will be LL 000, and the validation text will be must enter 2 capital letters and 3 numbers. And again, you can see here for the index, it is yes and no duplicates. So we will not have any duplicates for our primary key, which is our customer code. So come up here on our field name for the last name, tab and keep that as short text, and then tab to type the description. So I will pause here and I will enter the description and the data types and field properties for all these other fields. And you can do the same by following from our PDF notes on page 15 all the way up to page 16. So here is the finished list of fields, data types, description, and the field properties for our customer list table. Remember, if you got the warning messages, you click yes to all of them, or you can also type in the input mask for your telephone and zip code as provided in our notes. As you can see here, I typed this. So now we will save the changes that we have made to our table and close the customer list table. And so Control S to save that. And then close our customer list table from up here using this X button right there. And now we have finished making the changes to our supplier list table and our customer list table. The next thing that we will do is to open our products table, and we will open this in design view, and we will add the data types, description, and field properties to this table. So to open this in design view, make sure that is selected, and then right click on that and then click on design view. And now we have opened our products table in the design view, and you can see the name of the table right here. And so for our products table, Access added an automatic primary key here with an auto number. So if we needed our table to have an auto number as the primary key, we would leave this here and then we would add other fields to our table. But since we want to have our own primary key, we will delete this field and create our own primary key. To delete this field, right-click on the field name and then click Delete Rows. When this dialog box appears, click Yes to delete this field. And now we have deleted that field from our table. So the next thing we need to do is to create our own primary key or our own unique identifier for each product. So the first field in the products table will be our product's ID. So on the first row here, type product ID and then right click on the field name for the product ID and click primary key to convert this field to a primary key. And once we do that, we can see the primary key symbol there, and we can also see the primary key has been highlighted up here on our ribbon. And we will tab for the data type and we'll keep that as short text. For the description here, we will type product ID, primary key, 3 capital letters and 2 numbers. And then F6 to jump to the field properties. And the field size, we will change this to 5. For the input mask, we will have greater than symbol, and then LL, and then 00 for 2 numbers. For the field names, data types, field properties for the products table, if you could turn to page 19 on our PDF notes, I do have all the description, the data type, and the field properties there. And you can follow along as we enter the field name, the data type, description, and the field properties. So our next field name will be product description, short text, and this is description of the product, F6, and this will be 25 characters. The next field name is quantity on hand, and then this will be number, so I will type N to get the number, tab, and this will be quantity of our inventory to sell. And then tab to go to the next field, this will be cost. And for the data type, this will be currency. So if I type C, I have currency, so I'll tab to select that and go to the description, and I will type cost of the product. And then F6 to jump to the field properties. And then for the validation rule, I will type greater than, equal to, 0, and then space, and less than or equal to 100. So for this one, I cannot have a price that is less than 0, and I cannot have a price that is greater than 100. And then for the validation text, I will type must be between $0 and $100. And then the next field name will be the sell price. And then this will be currency. So C to get currency and tab to go to the description. And then this will be the selling price of our products. Tap to enter the next field, and for this next field, this is the supplier code. So for the supplier code, customer code, and wholesale and retail fields, we will use data type Lookup Wizard to connect the products table to the customer list table and the supplier list table with one-to-many relationship between the supplier code and the customer code fields. And we will also create a wholesale and retail field. And the instructions to do this are included on our PDF notes on page 20 to 24. So right here, I will type supplier code. And for the data type, I will use the down arrow and select Lookup Wizard. And once the Lookup Wizard dialog box opens, I will select the first option here. I want the lookup field to get the values from another table or query, and click next. And then from here, I will want to select the supplier list and then the tables. Make sure the tables is selected and then click next. And then from here, which fields of supplier list contain the values you want included in the lookup field. Make sure that the supplier store code is selected, and then use this arrow to move the supplier store code to the selected fields. And then you can see it right here in the selected fields. Click next. And then in this next dialog box, select the supplier store code from the ascending text box drop down. And then click next. And in this dialog box, we are not changing anything. So I will just click next. And then from here, we're also not changing anything. And we will not click enable data integrity. I will show you how to do that later once I finish creating the data type for this table. So click finish. And then when you get this message, make sure you click yes to save the changes. This is showing a short text, and you can see from our field properties, it has adopted the field size of 2 from the primary key of the supplier list table. So next I will type the description here, and you can see the description from our notes. And then we will tap for the next field, which will be the customer code. And same thing for the data type here, we will use the lookup wizard. And now we're making sure that the first option here is selected, and then click next. And then this time we are getting the field from the customer list and making sure that is a table, and then click next. And then from the available fields, make sure that the customer code is selected, and then click that arrow to move that to the selected fields. And then click next. And also we are making sure that the ascending is the customer code, and then click next. And then we are not changing anything here, so we'll just click next. And we are keeping the same name. And again, we will not enable the data integrity. We will enable that once we finish adding our data types here. So click finish. And then we also have the message here, the table must be saved before relationships can be created. So we'll click yes to save now. So I will tab and type the description. And again, the description is provided to you in our notes. The finished customer code field has also adapted the field size from the primary key in the customer list table. So I will tab to go to the next field. And this one will be quantity sold. The data type for this one is number. And I will tap to type the description, the quantity number we sold out. And then I will tap for the next field name, which is a wholesale retail. Tap to select the data type, and this one will be Lookup Wizard. And for this one here, we will select the second option. I will type in the values I want, so make sure that is selected. And then click next. And then in this dialog box, on this first row, we will type wholesale. And then on the second row, we will type retail. And then click next. And then right here in this dialog box, we will select limit to list. Make sure that box is selected, and then click finish. So for this data type, we will only have to enter either wholesale or retail in our table. So tab to enter the field description. And again, this is provided to you in our notes. So once you type the description here, press F6 to jump to the field properties. And then right here, we will change the field size to 25. And now that we have finished entering the field name, data type, description, and the field properties, we will save this. So Control S to save. And once that is saved, we can click here on the view button and change this to the datasheet view. And now we can see right here, we have the products table in the datasheet view. It has no records. So we will close this, and we will use the close button up here to close the products table. So by using the lookup wizard for both the supplier list and the customer list table, we created a relationship between these three tables. And the next thing that we now need to do is to edit this relationship by adding referential integrity to one-to-many relationship between the two supplier code fields and the two customer code fields. The referential integrity, it is a set of rules that access enforces to maintain consistency between the related tables when you update data in your database. So to edit our relationships, we will need to open the relationship window. So up here on our ribbon, click on the Database Tools tab, and then click on the relationship, which is in the Relationships group, and that opens for us the Relationships window. You can use your cursor to resize the field list for each of these tables. And if you do not see the relationships, you can click here in the Relationships group and click on all relationships so that you can be able to see all the relationships for all the tables. So here in our relationship window, we can see there's a relationship line between the supplier store code and the supplier code in both the supplier list table field list and the products table field list. We can also see that we have the same relationship line between the customer code and the customer code for the customer list table field list and the products table field lists. So to edit these relationships, you right click on this relationship line and then you click edit relationships, or you can come up here on your ribbon on the tools group and click on the edit relationships button. So I have the edit relationship here, so I will click on that, and on the edit relationships dialog box, I will check the box Enforce Referential Integrity to make sure that you're only allowed to enter the supplier code in the products table if it is already in the supplier list table. So this also ensures a one-to-many relationship. For the cascade update related fields and the cascade delete related records, I have provided to you explanation on each of these in our PDF notes. So refer to the PDF notes on when and how to use these two options. So I will click OK, and now I can see I have one-to-many relationships between these two tables. I will also right click on this relationship line here, and I will repeat the same process, edit relationship, and I will check this box, Enforce Referential Integrity, and then I will click OK. And I can now also see here I have one-to-many relationship. So now we can see we have one-to-many relationships for all the three tables. And I will save this, Control S to save these changes. And now we can close our relationship window using this close button up here on our ribbon. The next thing that we will need to do is to create forms for each of these tables. And with the forms, we can use that to enter, edit, and delete data in each of the tables. So to create a form for the products table, we need to make sure that here on our navigation pane, the products table is selected. And then on your ribbon, click on the Create tab. And then on the Forms group, click on the Form button. And now we can see the form for the products table has been created and it has opened in the layout view. With the layout view, it gives you an option to change things like the column width. But if you would like to enter data or to make changes to your data on the form, you would have to change the view to the form view. So to change the view, you come up here on your ribbon, and on the Views group, you click on the View button, and then you change to Form View. So with the Form View, we will use this to enter our raw data. So we will now save this, Control S to save, and our Access names this for us Products Form, and this is exactly what we want. So we will keep that name for the Products Form, and I will click OK. And now I can close our products form using this X button right here. So next we will create the supplier list form. So make sure that the supplier list table is selected on your navigation pane, and then come up here to your ribbon and click on the Create tab, and then click on the form on the Forms group. And then again, that opens the supplier list form in the layout view. You can see right here, we already have raw data. And this is one side of our relationship. and the data is coming from our supplier list table, which we imported from our Excel workbook. This supplier list form will eventually have a list of products down here once we enter data on our products table. So I will save this, Control S to save, and we will keep the same name for the form, supplier list, and I will click OK. And if you would like to change the view, you come up here to the views group and click on the view button and change that to the form view. And now I will close this using this X button right here. And the last form that we will need to create is the customer list form. So make sure that the customer list table is selected on your navigation pane, and then on your ribbon, click on the Create tab, and then on the Forms group, click Form button, and that opens for us the customer list form on the layout view. Again, you can see we already have raw data, and again, this is one side of our relationship, and the data is coming from our customer list table, which we imported from our Excel workbook. So I will save this, Control S to save, and we will keep the same name, customer list, and I will click OK. And now we can close this using the X button right here. And now we can see we have created the 3 forms right here. We will now enter raw data into our products table, but we will use the products form to enter our raw data. So I will double click to open the products form, and you can see this has opened now in the form view. And if you want to make sure this is in the form view, you come here on the views group, and then you click on the view button, and you can see it has opened in the form view. The raw data that we'll enter on our products table can be found on page 19 of our PDF notes. Here is the raw data for the products table, and this also can be found on page 30. This is also the product data, which is the same as in page 19. And also, if I scroll down on page 31, here is a picture of the finished product table after we enter all our raw data. So before we enter our raw data, we need to test our data types and field properties to make sure that they are all working. So for the product ID, we set these to 5 characters, 3 letters, and 2 numbers. So if we were to enter anything here that is not 3 letters and 2 numbers, that will not work. And to test that, if I were to enter a number here, I get an error because I'm supposed to enter 3 letters. So I can either type letters here in lowercase letters, and that will convert to uppercase letters because we have our input mask for greater than, which will convert any lowercase letter we type there into uppercase letter. So for our first product ID here, we have chocolate teddy bear, and the code is CBT, and I'm typing that as lowercase letters, and it is being converted to uppercase letters. So if I were to type another letter there, that will not work because right here I'm supposed to type 2 numbers. So I will type 42, and if I were to type another number there, that will not work because I have set this to only 5 characters. So I will tab to go to the next field, which is our product description. And this product description here is chocolate teddy bear. So if we were to increase the characters here to more than 25, and let's do that and see, that will not work. We only have a limit of 25 characters here. So anything beyond that will not work for this field. I will backspace to leave that as chocolate teddy bear, and then I will tab to go to the next field. For our quantity on hand, we set this as number. So if I were to type a letter there and tab, we get an error here that the value you entered isn't valid for this field. And this is because we set the data type for quantity on hand as number. So I will click OK. And for the quantity on hand, I will type 15 and tap to go to the next field, which is our cost. So we set our cost to have only greater than $0 and less than $100. So if we were to type a negative number there, so if we type -1 and tab, we get an error message here, and this is from the validation text that we set in our field properties. It must be between $0 and $100. So I will click OK, And again, I will test this if I type $101 and tab. Again, I get this same message. It must be between $0 and $100. So I will click OK and I will backspace that and I will type 8. So if I type 8 without typing the dollar symbol, that will work because we set this as currency. So if I tab, that formats now as a currency. For the sale price, this is $17, so I will just type 17 and tab for the supplier code field. Here we have a lookup wizard. So if we type anything that is not in our lookup wizard, that will not work. So I will backspace that and I will use my arrow here and I will select supplier code AS and tap to go to the customer field. And again, let's test this if it will work if we enter something different. And we see that also doesn't work if we enter anything different than what we specified in our data type. So I will backspace that. And again, this is a lookup wizard, so we can use our arrow right here. And we will select DG005. So we'll tap to go to the quantity and we need to test this field too. If we were to type letters there and tab, that also will not work because the quantity sold, we set this data type as numbers. So I will click OK and I will backspace that. And for the quantity sold, I will type 5 and tap to go to the wholesale retail field. For this one also, we used a lookup wizard and we created our own list. So if we type anything that is not on the list and we tab, that also will not work. We get a message error here. The text you entered isn't an item in the list. Do you want to edit the items in the list? And we'll click no because we don't want to do that. And then we will select from our list here and I will select retail. So to go to the next record, you don't have to come here and click next record. You use the tab key from your keyboard and that takes you to the next record and on the first field right here. So for the first field on our data, this is Hearts Puppy Bear. So HPB22 and tab for the product description, which is Hearts Puppy Bear. Tab for the quantity on hand, 23. Tab for the cost, this is $11. And tab for the price, this is $24. The supplier code, this is AS. So if I just type A, the AS code comes up. So I will tab to select that and go to the next field. The customer code, if I type AA, that AA001 comes up. So I will tab to select that and go to the next field. For the quantity sold, that's 13. I will tab to go to the next field and this is retail. So I will type R and retail comes up there. And now to go to the third record, I will press tab on my keyboard. And now this is the third record. I'm on the first field right here. So I will pause this and I will enter all the records that we have from our raw data on page 30. And you can do the same to enter all the raw data for our products table right here on the products form. I have now entered all the raw data in the products form right here. Right here we have 10 records. And I will close this using the X button right here. I don't have to save this because in Access, when entering data, it saves automatically. So I will close this here. I will also close the stuffed animal database because I would like to show you whatever raw data that we entered in our products form. It has saved here and it has also saved in our products table. So I will close this and I will open the stuffed animal database one more time. And now I will not open the products forms, but I will open the products table. I will double click to open that. And you can see all the raw data that we entered in our products form. It's right here in our products table. So I will close that using the X button right here. And now that was a lot of things that we have learned in this video. We have created the new database. We imported the supplier list data and the customer list data table from our Excel workbooks. We also added data types to these two tables, and we also created the product table and we added data types to this table, and we also added field properties to these tables. We also used the lookup wizard to create fields, and we also created relationships for these three tables. We have also created the forms for these three tables. and we added data to the products table using the products form. And with that, we have come to the end of this video. And in our next video, we will use this raw data to create several queries. So make sure that you have entered all the raw data correctly in our products form. And so thank you, and I will see you in our next video.